Hello and welcome, and yes, it's Couch Coop with another 5 more PS4 couch, co-op and split screen games. And I don't want to sound like I'm building this up too much, but this is probably one of my best 5 more videos I've ever done. I've scraped these bad boys together and we've got some real beauties in here. First one we're looking at is a game called Grip, not to be confused with Grid. And I want to show you some of the options here. There's a massive amount of race modes in this game. And this came out last year, around about this time last year, so it's getting on a little bit, but it does have some massive variables and huge selections on maps and AI difficulty and all kinds of engine power variables. And I love these load screens, love them. As you can see, the game is all about not a zero gravity, but being able to go against all of the laws and get round the top of these tunnels. Your vehicle can operate either up or down sided, so it's like one of those really cool remote control cars that you used to get. But then it introduces weapons. Jesus. Massive kudos for having a vertical line down the middle. I know that a lot of driving games, I do prefer a horizontal line, but with this one, it's quite a linear playing field, and it's amazing to have that down the middle. And also, the game performs incredibly. I don't even need to show you the single player on this because there's no difference. It looks beautiful everywhere. It's a quite well made game, this. Having said that, it's not as good as Wipeout, but if, like me, you have exhausted that content and you just love cool races and accessible races as well. The person playing with me, this was their first playthrough, but they are a Mario Kart fan and they understand pickups and boosts and having to aim and firing whilst you're on the go. It kind of directly competes with Crash Bandicoot Team Racing, I suppose, and remember that this does come with a 4-player split screen mode, so that is something I will be definitely looking at. I also found myself, as per, looking at all the texture modeling and the rendering on a lot of the car models. And well, I say they're cars. They look like big tracks. They're not always based on wheel design either. But I was really interested in how much effort they've put into you being able to customize and upgrade your vehicle. So as usual, I stepped down into the single player modes on these games quite deeply. I was really impressed with the amount of RPG elements attached to opening up the different vehicles, swapping out different tyres to give yourselves higher speed, and looking at the stats and buggering around with all of those cool variables on the colours and paint jobs, and even getting a flying one was amazing. I purchased this copy on the PlayStation Network store for about 11 quid, $15. I think it had a bit of an offer on it, so it's not an extortionate game by any stretch, and it's thoroughly recommended if you're wanting to build your cool Michael arcade racer library. This one might be worth a look. Grip. I'm 41 next year. Yeah. This is River City Girls, a sequel to River City Ransom. Oh my god, anyone remember that game? This is from Ark, right? So it's boasting some amazing animation. I shit you not, amazing animation. This game has made me smile from start to, let's say, 4 hours in, 5 hours in. But if you played, hands up, everybody who loves Streets of Rage or who loves a Golden Oscar, put your hand up. You know, it's an amazing homage to that beat 'em up genre. The violence is rife and the colourful art style is everywhere. I would say this is more of a 32-bit looking game. Yeah, 16-bit is kind of pushing it. I don't think the Mega Drive could have ran something like this because it's very busy and it's really cool and complicated. So they built up on that traditional game platform of the side-scroller beat 'em up, but they've added these amazing nuances in and these really cool tunes.
Don't you hassle me on this ride. Feel this ride, won't be nice. Don't you bully me?
So there's a very strong element of leveling up your character. And I failed to capture footage, but you can see on the top of the screen, on the far right, there's like these 3 hearts and a face. That is a character that I managed to get on our side. At the end of a fight, you can actually persuade characters to join you and they become a hotkey button, a special move. It's a really deep mechanic. There's loads of different characters that you can get on your team. And I also love how lavish the boss fights are, or the boss opening cutscenes are. They're full-on arc amazingness. So back to its sort of RPG metagame, there's loads of items that you get unlocked, but more importantly, there's a huge amount of movesets that are accessed once you get past a certain level, and things start getting hella interesting because you can do a face stomp, you can grab people, throw them in the air, they all go piling into each other. It's amazing how much depth they've put into the move and the move mechanics with a side-scrolling beat 'em up like this. On the day-to-day combat side, there is also a block button, and there's also a timed block that if you manage to get a response on, you have a massive window to then counter. It's awesome actually. I forget to do it all the time, but it's really cool when you actually pull one off. Their infantry screens are their mobile phones, and I think depending on what level you are, the better your mobile phone is, because the one on the right is like cracked and crap, and you can see these are the different characters as well that we've managed to persuade to come onto our side. And there's also a wealth of huge like RPG, hilariously girly items that you slot in and slot out. It's chucklingly awesome, this game. You'll have so much fun with it, especially if you're a fan of this genre, and especially if you're a fan of this art style and this combat. And of course, you know, finding cool shops, buying new moves, testing them out. What a game. $2017, Coop, what are we paying you for, mate? Just hold on. MotoGP 2017 is the last of the split screen MotoGP games. Now, as some background on this section of the video, I wrote Couch Coop Senior into this footage. Now, the poor man has never touched a gaming pad. It was a milestone for the channel and amazing for us to be able to bond over motorcycles because we have an affinity both for them. I grew up on a motorcycle and of course he's owned loads of them. So this was amazing and it was really good to actually have a go with my father on a game like this. But let's look at the single player first, because this isn't a cheap purchase. It's 15 quid. It's an older game, but you need to be into bikes and into how they work to love this campaign, I think. The reason I say that is because it doesn't behave like a normal racer would. It is quite simmy, but it's this lean mechanic and the use of the front and back brake and the tuck mechanic, which is a button you hold down when you're on the straights to get behind the fairing and get your top speed up. It can all seem quite daunting to a newcomer when it comes to a standard racing game. The passion for me and motorcycles pushes me to work it all out, you know, and when to put that back brake on and when to start using the throttle and the front brake and leaning into these corners like that. And of course it's got its own slowdown mechanic as well. It isn't a shit campaign at all. There's a massive amount of options, and there is a replay mechanic that's actually quite good. That's what I used to put that intro together. As you can see, I'm absolutely terrible at it, but it's so much fun watching yourself on the replay, taking the wrong lines, doing everything in the wrong place at the wrong time, and then tightening up that performance and watching it again, or even winning again. Gran Turismo's always done this, and it's also done it on a split screen level, and there's something major that they've missed on the split screen level that we'll talk about in a bit. But I just wanted to flesh out the campaign and say it is really cool, and if you're thinking, should I purchase a game like this if I'm not into bikes, really give that a lot of thought. So first off, you're really only given the choice of a single race when it comes to the split screen mode, and you're also locked on the horizontal split of the screen. Now, when it comes to MotoGP games, I distinctly remember being able to have it going vertically. I'm sure that was the case, but that's gone, and it's kind of, because so much of these outside of the screen's redundant on this mode, it just seems a bit counterintuitive why they didn't have that down the middle, and also why we can't have access to a full-blown tournament or championship than having to do single races. But I mean, we're just going to have to take that on the chin because we have got a really awesome split screen mode here. The ragdoll physics are so cool when the riders come off, and there's no massive penalising for being violent on track and smashing everyone around. If you have a mate who is as good as you are on these games, and you guys can go toe to toe, lap after lap, and creep through the whole pack because you're racing with a whole bunch of other AI racers here, there is so much fun to be had. But just make sure that individual is ready and prepared, because there's a hell of a lot of fun to be had with this game. It's just a damn shame that we don't have more depth to it. And another trick they've missed, and if you remember Gran Turismo A-Spec, when you looked at the replays, even if there was just two of you, you could ask the camera to stay on player one, i.e. the first player, the person who's first within those laps. And there's no replay option here at all for the split screen. It would be so cool to race and then watch together a single replay, and the camera would focus on whoever's in front. That is such a good idea. Why aren't people doing this? I would spend so much time putting some cool laps in, or racing again and again and again to watch that cool replay afterwards. Agreed? Okay, we're going full 16-bit side-scroller retro shoot-'em-up called Blazing Chrome. This was promised. I have had a look at the single player. It was time to get the co-op going. Oh. I think I probably will have to go and look at the Metal Slug games. My memory of the Metal Slug games was purely arcade, and them costing me a hell of a lot of bloody money. But there's so much reminding me of the entire Metal Slug series with this game, especially Metal Slug X. That's like the big bumper edition, all of the back. Check it out. It will come up on the channel because I had a hell of a lot of fun with this game. Just like Valfaris, this is a two-player Valfaris. That is the cool idea here, with some slight nuance. I think this is more NES. Valfaris is more, it's kind of a bit more slightly off-center. This one's a bit tamer. I wouldn't say less gory. It doesn't really come with massive blood and guts and an amazing metal soundtrack, but it certainly competes with Contra so well. I mean, wow, Midnight Resistance, all of that genre is completely munched up here. It's beautiful, it's awesome. Not taking your finger off the fire button is just a thing, and using that Cuphead style stationary lock and being able to angle your bullets is essential. And the game also comes with this cool hold down and push X to do a roll, which has got a nice massive invincibility window on it, so that can be spammed. You can't fire whilst you're doing it, but bloody hell is it handy. The bosses are kind of the star of the show. They're really frequent as well, and there's loads of mid-game bosses. The power-ups are also pretty amazing, offering loads of variety and being one-off uses, i.e. there's no leveling system here, you don't start with better weapons or anything like that. It's base game character that gets the cool stuff on the journey. I love that idea because it throws up almost a roguelike variety of different attack patterns and weapons that you come across. Difficulty wise, you may have noticed that we're almost constantly dying. This is a hardcore game. This is a hardcore gamer's game. People who aren't into this genre will get frustrated with it. And again, I also had complaints from someone on the team that they are kind of, the imagery and the flashy strobeness of it all is just a bit much. I think my generation might be immune to all that because we sat in front of Commodore 64s and Spectrum 128Ks for years waiting for the games to load. Okay, can we get a bit of hush, please? I've got an announcement to make. Children of Mortar is my game of the year. The Division 2, Devil May Cry 5, Anthem, Jesus, what else have we got? The Outer Worlds, bloody Borderlands 3, they've all been thrashed by this. Thrashed. So this is my pitch. It's a Souls-like ARPG with rogue-like procedurally generated elements. That's a hell of a job description, I know, but if you break that all down, it will kind of make sense here about what you're seeing. So you live in there's a house full of a family, and you play members of the family. When you start the game, there's only 2 members of the family that you can play as. You gradually open them up. They all are completely different with their movesets. There's a knight-style son, there's the daughter who's got the bow and arrow, and you can see here that I've got 2 silhouettes for 2 more members to come in. So I can't wait to open those up. Now the genius here is that the person that joins you uses your roster, okay? Now I don't know what the deal is if that person is actually got a PlayStation account. You would probably have to play your own 2 games and help each other with them. Do you know what I mean? And concentrate on one game at a time. But the thing is, a guest can just come and sit down and use one of your characters. That's bloody genius. And the way that they complement each other with the specials, oh man, the depth. So you do runs in these death trap ridden dungeons, and there is a revive mechanic, and of course your health is independent of each other, and there are health drops. You can't actually proactively, not for me at this stage, revive yourself. You have to look for the drops or open up chests to get them, which adds huge amounts of tension to the game. Now there's temporary buffs lying around, like you'd have in Diablo 3, that have a timer on them. And when you're doing the run in the dungeon, you get to the end of a floor, you get given a gift or a present. Now this is just like Slay the Spire, where you can see that symbol is there, that's with me now, that's a permanent perk, and they're always different. This is the roguelike aspect of the reward system. They're always different and they stack, and some of them are amazing. Some of them can be a little, like a robot thing that follows you around and helps you out. The complexities in the differences on these characters is amazing. So the guy that I'm playing as, the sword and shield guy, he actually has a stamina meter that means that you can't have your shield up all the time, and he also can call in an awesome sword drop mechanic. And I swapped over and played as the son, the youngest son in the family, and he's got these really quick moves, and he gets like a rage meter, which means that as long as he's attacking all the time, his hit combos are really high. You also level up on the fly. Now look at the size of this tree. So I am literally on floor 1 of this building with this game. It's blowing, again, my mind at how much the gameplay changes when you open and unlock a new perk. And also finding these NPCs or cool shops. Just like Hollow Knight, you'll find cool characters and stuff that will then be back at the house when you return to the base, just like you would find a character on a Dark Souls game. At the moment, both of my characters, or most of my characters, have got one major move on a cooldown on triangle, but you do have a rage meter popping. That's amazing. Not knowing what's behind those doors is awesome. Sometimes there's puzzles, or it might just be a shop, or it might be the most amazing drop you've had all level. And having it all procedurally generated so that looking for the different rewards, doing on each different run, always brings up new results. And if you have a new dungeon to get to, then getting to the end boss is your first mission, and the boss fights are amazing. I'll show you one at the end. I just wanted to cover the art style. Now, the more I look at this, the more beautiful it gets. The more detail just starts screaming out of me. It is so good.
All 8 eyes studied the one so willing to walk into their own tomb.
All of the dungeons have their own boss to complete. I'm on the second dungeon. I've got these 2 goblins that I'm fighting at the moment. They're brilliant. I'm working them all out. It's great. So, yeah. Holy moly. Close and comments. What a game. Absolutely. I am enjoying this so much. Available on the Switch. Available physical. Available on all platforms. PC, Steam. About 15 quid. Maybe a bit more on the dollar front. Good God, Children of Mortar, thank you so much, and thank you for a great year, guys. See you then!